The universe, the lifeblood of all things, the home of a billion stars, each with its place in the order of the heavens, and each governed by the infinite law of the cosmos. As the ever-expanding energy of the universe continues to grow in a sea of fusion and creation, the infinite depth of the cosmic reality embraces itself in the fabric of destiny, and the awareness of mankind grows in accordance with the rule of cosmic law. Since the dawn of humanity, we have looked out towards the stars as if compelled by an unknown force, telling us, you are not alone. You are all part of the evolution of the universe, on your way to higher realms of enlightenment. The expanding universe, with its infinite complexities and compelling influences, is the kaleidoscope of man's dreams. With new attitudes and new points of view, our understanding is growing, bringing scientific influence towards new horizons. At last, we are beginning to grasp the meaning of the primeval commandment, "Know thyself," which is inscribed over the portal of Delphi. Today, we have a new model concept of science which proves that all natural systems, from minerals to man, inherit a collective memory of their kind. The awareness of our fundamental heritage is inherent in our being. The awakening of the wisdom of the whole is inexorably endorsed within the essence of our spirit. The influence from motivation to germination is the basis of our existence and is predictable in the course of our evolution. The pyramids reveal the wonders of our ancient past. They harness their proliferating energy from the cosmos that it may be utilized by another civilization in its many fields of endeavor. Our awareness of the origin of these citadels derives from past generations. It is inherent in the soul of civilized man to build such structures, reaching towards the source of unseen powers. The challenge of future accomplishment is the driving force behind human progress. From the horizon of the past, the traditions and memories of visiting cosmic teachers has remained engraved in cultural art. This tradition dates from the era when spacecraft visited Earth from distant worlds. The ancient Indians of Peru were a highly advanced civilization who lived thousands of years ago in the jungle of South America. Their traditions speak of visiting spaceman. At their reservations are the amazing Nazca lines, which are etched into the earth and which are acknowledged as being aircraft runways and landing sites. Artifacts of great age have been found which closely resemble aircraft of today. The sensational crop formations of England have generated great interest, and the question has to be asked if there is any connection with the etching in Peru.
Ich kenne die Hopi-Indianer sehr gut. Sie leben heute in Arizona. Aber ihre alte Geschichte
I know the Hopi Indians very well. Today they live in Arizona. But their old traditions say that many, many thousands of years ago their home was in South America, and that at that time they were descended upon by extraterrestrial visitors called Kachinas. These Kachinas also saved the Hopi Indians when their continent threatened to sink. These heavenly beings, the Kachinas, were the teachers of the Hopi. And even today, the Hopi Indians make figures of the Kachinas for the younger generations, so that no one should forget the visit of their original teachers from outer space. And even today, the Hopi are convinced that one day the Kachinas will come again. In this connection, it's interesting that a short time ago I showed White Bear, one of the oldest members of the Hopi, pictures of the Maya cities Tikal and Palenque. He was beside himself with excitement and said, "We understand that. Our ancestors built that under the guidance of the Kachinas."
The great energy source of the cosmos can be extracted and focused to form a very potent electrical and magnetic power form. It is a power of great destructive potential, and the ability to control it can only be given to those of higher understanding and achievement. Such power sources were built into the Great Pyramids by another race thousands of years ago, when they needed recharging facilities for their spacecraft while on reconnaissance flights around the universe. The units were built within the protective framework of the pyramids to protect them from discovery. As the world focuses on the mystery of the Egyptian temples, our space probes have located similar strange pyramids on Mars. The readings of the early Bible told many stories of Earth being visited by heavenly teachers on blazing chariots who gave information of great wisdom. They told of how they had always been in the sky and would return one day. This is one of the prophecies of the Bible, which was taken from the word of the visitors. How did modern man go about interpreting these holy clues? The visionaries of the past perceived the structure of the cosmos and its purpose. The life spirit of the elements is a constantly changing mirror of charged perception and energy. The spiral of conscious awareness is the consequence of harmonizing with this harmonic vibration. Within the evolutionary circle of cosmic regeneration is the life force of progression, through which the universal memory of intuition is formed. Leonardo da Vinci was a man of great vision. He realized the significance of the hologram of man in relation to his place in the order of the universe. Many of the first astronomers studied the sky principally from an ideological standpoint. Galileo Galilei applied himself to analyzing the cosmos with a view to finding out just how it worked. Kepler believed in the law of equal equation, whereby all scientific experience could be solved by the use of mathematics. The real world is the mathematical harmony discoverable in all things. He also had visions involving space travel, and this already at the beginning of the 17th century. In a letter to Galilei, he wrote, "Let us create vessels and sails adjusted to the heavenly ether, and there will be plenty of people unafraid of the empty wastes. In the meantime, we shall prepare for the brave sky travelers maps of the celestial bodies. I shall do it for the moon, you, Galilei, for Jupiter." Isaac Newton spent many years studying alchemical research, cosmic intelligences, and the soul of the world. His law of universal gravitation involves a holistic vision. Every particle of matter attracts every other particle. Everything is interconnected, but in Newton's opinion, such a force could not arise from the particles themselves. They had no such attractive power. Rather, said Newton, gravitational force depends on the being of God. It is an expression of his will. This aspect of Newton's thought was soon forgotten, however. The hidden forces permeating the space of the universe were soon attributed to matter itself. They arose from material reality rather than from God. And when God was finally dissolved completely away from Newton's vision, what was left was a world machine in absolute mathematical space and time, containing inanimate forces and matter, and entirely governed by eternal mathematical laws. Like Kepler, Albert Einstein was strongly imbued with a sense of the mathematical rationality of the universe. He wrote, "The individual feels the futility of human desires and aims, and the sublimity and marvelous order which reveal themselves in both nature and in the world of thought. Individual existence impresses him as a kind of prison, and he wants to experience the universe as a single magnificent whole." What a deep conviction of the rationality of the universe, and what a yearning to understand Kepler and Newton must have had to enable them to spend years of solitary labor in disentangling the principles of celestial mechanics. Only one who has devoted his life to similar ends can have a vivid realization of what has inspired these men and given them the strength to remain true to their purpose in spite of countless failures. For 10,000 years, man has tried to equate with the enormity of the cosmos. The concept of an evolutionary universe which started with gods from the stars, spaceships and telescopes will carry us into a totally changed life.
If we consider that most of the stars in the Milky Way are twice as old than our sun, 10,000 million years old, then obviously there may be highly advanced old civilizations which have developed interstellar travel. So my answer would be it is more than likely, not only possibly, but more than likely, that extraterrestrial visitors are traveling to other solar systems, other planetary systems. Thus, we really should expect extraterrestrial visitors in our solar system observing human civilization.
As fantastic as this may seem, photographs of unknown flying craft, known as UFOs, have been taken around the world, captivating the public's attention for decades. This photograph was taken in 1978 in Brazil. This was photographed in Switzerland in 1975. These two UFOs were also photographed in Switzerland in 1975. This was taken in 1971 in Austria. This one was seen in 1987 in Canada. This UFO was photographed in Germany in 1977. This was taken in Colombia in 1971. This photograph of a shiny silver object was taken in North Charleston, South Carolina in 1980. Yet another photograph from Switzerland taken in 1975. This UFO with a cloud-like vapor was taken in 1974 in Denmark. This UFO was sighted in 1977 in Uruguay. A UFO in Indonesia, photographed in 1974. These three luminous flying objects were photographed in Barcelona, Spain in 1978. Every year, increasing numbers of UFO photographs are being taken by witnesses from around the world, giving growing evidence of extraterrestrial visitors. In 1946, George Adamski, a professor of philosophy, using his cine camera, took the first moving pictures of alien spacecraft. This film shows the strange flight pattern of these machines. This picture shows 3 balls beneath the craft serving as condensers for static electricity. This film, also taken by Adamski, shows a telemeter disc, described as being a very small but highly technical reconnaissance craft. Adamski was an amateur astronomer who had a 6-inch telescope on the slopes of Mount Palomar. In 1946, he observed a huge cigar-shaped UFO and was astounded to see many smaller UFOs emerge from the mother craft. He was able to take a series of photographs of this amazing sight. After taking many photographs of these alien flying machines, an event took place which would change the course of Adamski's life. On November 20th, 1952, he had his first contact with a human-looking alien visitor. Adamski was walking in a desert canyon in California when he came face-to-face with an extraterrestrial standing beside a landed spacecraft. The alien told Adamski that the meeting was not by accident and that he had come to give a message. He warned of the danger we were creating by exploding nuclear weapons. He said that the human race had no idea of the very powerful and deadly long-term effects we were creating, which could not only destroy ourselves, but also our planet, and that the continued use of such weapons could eventually endanger our cosmic neighbors. Adamski was asked to spread this message. The alien visitor promised that he would return and meet Adamski at a later time. Adamski was later taken for flights into space, where deeper, more meaningful messages were given to help the human race to understand another point of view of our world. Adamski devoted his time to spreading the visitor's message and was later joined by a Danish Air Force Major, Hans Petersen.
Well, you see, after the contact in the desert, George had an inner feeling that this was not the end of it. On one of his flights, made more flights, but one particular he was taking on board a mothership, which is a very, very large ship who is taking all the other vehicles into our atmosphere. And in there, he met a lot of people, and he met an old man, so to speak, a wise man, who told him a lot of why they were here and what we did wrong here on Earth. And after these experiences, George wrote a book, Inside the Spaceships.
In this book, Adamski described in detail the very advanced technology used in the spaceships, including technical information on the magnetic and gravitational propulsion systems, which work on a power found throughout the universe. He also described a magnetic pole running through the center of the ship that was also a very powerful periscope, which could observe both above and below the craft with great magnification. Adamski's alien friends gave him a pendant to wear around his neck and was told it would increase his telepathic abilities and enable him to maintain contact with them. Another witness who was truly shattered by his experience when he saw and photographed a UFO was Dr. Daniel Fry. Dr. Fry was a rocket engineer and the head of a scientific team employed by the American government at the White Sands Missile Proving Grounds in New Mexico when he took these films and photographs. On July 4th, 1949, Dr. Fry was contacted by alien visitors for the first time. They informed him that mankind lives in danger of total self-destruction through means it had created itself, and that Earth technology was advancing faster than man's ability to control himself. He was told that peace was the automatic byproduct of understanding between man and race, also that the understanding of fellow human beings was the key to building a united world.
The most significant experience that I had is probably the finding out of the major purpose for this invasion, so to speak, was to keep this planet alive, that we were approaching an area of controversy which could result in the displacement of all humanity, because we had learned how to do that without learning how to get along with each other.
Dr. Fry later wrote a book called To Men of Earth, in which he told the story of his experiences and contacts with the space visitors. He continues to travel, giving lectures and spreading the word from his alien friends. Dr. Fry attracts a great deal of support from people in all walks of life.
We rushed outside, and there came a spaceship sailing, passing us, making a curve, going down south and coming in from the south, passing over our heads and disappearing to the north. And 1 hour later it came back and passed in low altitude, and it passed the moon, which has come up meanwhile, so you could see it was an Adamski type saucer. I've been so close to them. I have had the telemeter dish, the small flying saucers which are making reconnaissance within 75 meters, 2 of them. I have one being disintegrated on my terrace. I have seen flying saucers, the George Adamski type, within 200 meters in front of my car. I have seen 2 flying saucers land, both cases with my wife, so I had a witness.
The founder of the German UFO Society, Carl Veit, is also a publisher of UFO books. For decades, he has published books written by contactees. Many years ago, he had the foresight to realize the value of the information.
There were 12 of us sitting in the garden, and the pictures were shown by this television man. And I explained them again as well as I could. And in the middle of my explanation, the baby daughter, she was the youngest member of this family, called out, "Daddy, what is that?" and pointed up. We were all looking at the screen, and then we also looked. And there, vertically above us, or nearly vertically, there was a wonderful large UFO, rather low. Of course, we were all amazed. We gazed up, we waved, and in a way gave thanks that they had come during the UFO lecture and wished to greet us, or to say, "Yes, we are here, the ones you're talking about."
Tony Dodd is a retired British police sergeant who had a close encounter with a UFO. Since that time, he has become the director of investigations for Quest International, Europe's largest UFO investigation organization.
I was driving a police patrol vehicle in a remote area in Yorkshire when I saw the most amazing disc-shaped flying machine. This machine was about 100 meters off the road, above the road. It was glowing white, bright white. It had coloured lights rotating round the underside of it. It had a dome on the top with what appeared to be portholes. It was going at no more than 30 kilometers per hour. But the strange thing was that it was making no sound. It was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. This was no doubt a real UFO. I'm convinced of this. It did not resemble anything that we have which is flying around in the sky. It had an effect on my police car radio. It blanked out the transmissions with a very heavy static effect. The object moved away from us and disappeared into the distance and appeared to land in a forest on a hillside.
George once told me that they work in all countries, all over the world. And they live among us, they have jobs. One day George met a couple in New York on Fifth Avenue. He was looking in a shop in the window, and a couple passed him with a little boy between them. And he got this strange feeling that they were space people. And he put a thought towards them: are you space people? Then come back. They turned around and came back, and said, "Your thought is correct."
Adamski was given insight into the purpose of his life by his extraterrestrial friends.
And in this sense, all these people who have come into contact with extraterrestrial beings are confronted with these wonderful facts, and they have also had an insight into their lives. Why they are here. That's what was also said to George Adamski, that he should, so to say, be a pioneer in the field of ufology, because in the development of the human race, we now face great, higher problems.
The first thing that made me realize that there was definitely something else happening was as a result of the first sighting. After this, using my policeman's mind, I used to watch in the area where I'd seen this thing, and over a period of time, I saw many more of them. And it got to a fairly regular event. And I saw them at close range. I saw them doing aerobatics, almost on occasions as if they were doing them for me, on very remote hillsides. And then on one occasion, one came past, it flew over my head, and I flashed a light at it. And this thing turned round and came back. And as it got above my head, this was only about 25 feet above the ground. It had a long light on the front of it, a long elliptical shaped light. And as it got to my position, the light increased in intensity, went down, and then increased intensity and went down again, almost as if it was signaling me back. And then it turned and flew off again. I knew at this time this was an intelligently controlled machine who was acknowledging my signal. I was certain before this time that there were alien craft flying around, but this particular incident really convinced me of this.
So where are our alien visitors coming from? Or is it possible that they've been here all the time? If so, where?
Military and civil airline pilots from around the world have constantly reported having the most unusual experiences in the skies, including contact with UFOs. On September 19, 1979, a UFO followed a military aircraft over Germany. This is a close-up of the object. This B-52 Canberra bomber was flying over Edwards Air Force Base in California in 1954 when a UFO was seen near the aircraft. Here is a close-up of the UFO. Many pilots flying B-52 bombers reported seeing UFOs. This one was photographed at 12,000 feet in June 1966 over Utah by aircraft pilot Williams. An aircraft over Venezuela had a close encounter with a UFO. This photograph was taken from the plane. In June 1976, the British Airways Concorde was being filmed in flight when a small UFO appeared. After maneuvering around the plane in a manner that indicated intelligent control, the UFO flew off at great speed. This was witnessed by the whole crew. Here is a replay in slow motion. Of the hundreds of UFO sightings made by aircraft pilots every year, the most amazing one was filmed from a commercial airliner by passenger Gene Oldfield as the aircraft cruised at 9,000 feet over Stafford, England on April 2, 1966. The film clearly shows the ability of the craft to perform maneuvers and feats of acceleration far beyond our present comprehension. Here is the film again in slow motion. This photograph was taken on February 7, 1979 at Zurich Airport when a glowing UFO bathed in a bright light appeared in front of an aircraft. On April 14, 1977, a Swiss airline pilot had an encounter with a UFO. Hans-Georg Schmidt suddenly saw an object moving rapidly towards his aircraft. It stopped approximately 3 miles away, glowing intensely, and then shot off again. Both military and civil ground radar units who were tracking the object later informed the pilot that the UFO had moved at 5 times the speed of sound. At 9 p.m. on January 4, 1988, Captain Dowie Stahl noticed a light in the sky ahead of his position. The object appeared to descend and then started to dance from side to side. It then climbed back to its original position. Pilots who witness UFOs while in flight are required to complete an official but confidential report. This was one of the early films taken of a UFO. The dramatic movement of the object showed rapid, almost instantaneous changes of speed and direction, which sparked intense curiosity and confusion among the public and scientific community. No earthly aircraft of the time could perform like this. While filming from a helicopter for the U.S. Navy on April 15, 1966, Lee Hansen, a professional photographer, shot these pictures of a flying object at Catalina Island, California. The craft, which had no wings or tail fins, was 30 feet in diameter and moving at approximately 150 miles per hour. No signs of a propulsion system were visible. This film, shot by James Waters in Colorado on July 23, 1963, shows a UFO moving across the sky at tremendous speed, followed by a second one. This is the same film at 1/12th speed. An analysis showed that no earthly aircraft could possibly fly so fast. In late December 1978, a record number of UFO sightings were being reported by radar operators and pilots in the area of Wellington, New Zealand. Just before midnight on December 30th, 1978, Quentin Fogarty, a reporter, and a television team took off in an Argosy aircraft to fly to Christchurch. Shortly after takeoff, Fogarty was informed by ground radar that they were being followed by several UFOs. During the 50-minute flight, UFOs were seen and filmed by the crew. The UFOs were described as having a luminous base and a transparent top. The objects were performing incredible aerobatics. This movement was captured on a single frame of film. The following sequence of photographs and film was taken by the astronauts. While in space, they had many encounters with UFOs that are now being revealed for the first time after decades of secrecy. On the Gemini 4 spaceflight on June 3, 1966, astronaut James McDivitt took a photograph of this cylindrical object. On the mission of Gemini 7, astronaut Frank Borman reported seeing these two objects flying in formation. On the Mercury 1 mission on February 20, 1962, John Glenn took this picture of two glowing objects. On the Gemini 11 mission, September 13, 1966, Pete Conrad and Richard Gordon observed a cluster of UFOs alongside their craft. They described them as large and very bright. During the Apollo 11 mission in July 1969, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin saw these two UFOs, which were in orbit around the moon. The astronauts filmed the extraordinary glowing objects from the Apollo 11 spacecraft and reported to Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, that the UFOs even accompanied them to the moon. Many astronauts made their own private films while on space missions. This film, shot by James McDivitt in a long sequence, shows the remarkable aerobatic ability of UFOs. The astronauts faced UFOs so regularly that they became part of their everyday life. Because of restrictions, however, they were unable to describe their encounters to the public. One of the first to break the silence is former astronaut Brian O'Leary, a professor of physics and an astronomer from Princeton University, who comes forward for the first time to speak of the reality of visitation from out of this world.
What I do know from my own experience and from scientific investigations and experiments is that UFO phenomena and a range of other events are part of our reality, as incredible as they may seem.
Jetzt war es dann endlich soweit. Der erste Mann war auf dem Mond gelandet. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
During their moonwalks, a giant glowing UFO hovered above their heads. While in orbit around the moon, a huge object remained in view for a considerable amount of time before it suddenly disappeared. This UFO was seen above the landing site. This cigar-shaped UFO was photographed from the orbiting space module.
Down to the bed. And that may have been a small one for Neil, but that's a long.
On this very first trip into the unknown, the astronauts repeatedly reported to Mission Control that they were being escorted by unidentified flying objects. After landing on the moon, the astronauts stated that the UFOs were still present in the distance, hovering near a large crater. They were well aware that they had been observed throughout their entire mission.
It's also like sundown again. Yeah, powder. I was strolling on the moon one day in a merry, merry month of December. No, May's the month. May, that's right. May is the year of the month. When, much to my surprise, a pair of lovely eyes. Hello, Ryan. It's Houston. Hi there. We lost you for a while. Yeah, we sure did.
The momentous leap to the moon led to the dawning of the space age. Space travel opened up endless opportunities for mankind to explore new frontiers. NASA's plans are already well underway for colonies to be developed on other planets, beginning with Mars.
Space offers unlimited growth. You cannot force any living form to stop growing. People need to grow, and they need to have more elbow room and new frontiers. And the opening of space provides that. And so the moon, and particularly Mars, as a new living environment, will provide hope for future generations, many, decades in the future, to continue to grow. If we don't do that, Earth remains closed, and we would have to stop growing totally, entirely. Otherwise, we would destroy ourselves and the environment. And I don't think that this proposition of stopping to grow will be accepted by any living form, including humans. People want to grow. People want to have children.
The compelling influence of our origins is the energy which fuels life itself. The purpose of our existence is to move ever closer to the source of creation by the expansion of our horizons and species, to explore the frontiers of infinity, which are our inheritance.
The other aspect of it is, in order to continue our internal growth, we need to do external steps. In my feeling, I've always been confident that for every step we take on the outside, we have to take also a step on the inside, deeper down into ourselves. There is no way for us to explore Mars or to explore the universe if at the same time we don't also explore ourselves and become more complex humans, more rounded, more holistic humans. It is not really a necessity. I think it'll just happen anyway. It's a law. It's a natural law that if we do any step out to Jupiter and to Mars, and if we send our space probes out, we will change, whether we want it or not. It's a change in consciousness, and we will start asking questions which we have never even thought about years before. Just seeing the Earth from space as an individual little ping pong ball has already caused a revolution in the environmental area. The environmental people have put the Earth as photographed from space on their banner, as a symbol, as a mandala. So space and its overview effect, the view of Earth from space, has helped to initiate a revolution of Earth consciousness, of people becoming conscious of Earth as a vulnerable spaceship which they need to keep in repair and maintained.
Here now some astronauts' impressions of their first view of Earth from space.
Looking back at our beautiful planet, you're immediately struck by what a gorgeous place we've been given to live. It's an incredible, living, beautiful planet going through the big black void of space.
Sau 8 ngày bay trong vũ trụ, tôi mới
I
thấu
realized that mankind needs height to know our Earth, to see what we cannot see close up, not just to love her beauty, but also to ensure that we do not bring even the slightest harm to the natural world.
The first day or so, we all pointed to our countries. The third or the fourth day, we were pointing to our continents. By the fifth day, we were aware only of one Earth.
The Earth is like color music. You see the colors and the music springs in your soul. Our planet is so vulnerable and needs to be taken care of.
Yet another astronaut said, "In this complete silence of space, questions from the deepest inside arise. Where is my place in all this? What do I mean when I say I?" Within the heart of this living miracle of creation, science has begun to detect the presence of other dimensions of existence, living in parallel worlds to our own. That means in the space our solar system occupies, other solar systems can exist also on a different vibration. Whatever happens in this world has an influence on the other worlds to a certain degree.
Ability to imagine the concept of our technology restricts your understanding of intergalactic travel. Movement through time and space is a natural result of our scientific achievement. The existence of parallel worlds with one race living in the same space as another is not yet fully understood on Earth. Our craft move from dimension to dimension by altering our state of molecular vibration and merging with the new one. This action gives the impression that we suddenly appear or disappear from your sky. Speed is of no significance in space travel. All movement is achieved by molecular interchange.
When we come from other dimensions, we materialize and become visible to you. We sometimes do this to make mankind slowly aware that he is not alone. You see many of our smaller craft in the lower atmosphere, but these come from much larger motherships of many sizes which are stationed around the Earth.
Motherships very rarely enter the Earth's atmosphere, but on one rare occasion, this remarkable film was shot of such a ship flying at low level over Germany in 1980. The object was seen by other witnesses in a nearby village who reported seeing 3 smaller craft emerging from the larger one. They stated that the craft was at least 100 feet long. This film of a cigar-shaped mothership was taken in Rhode Island, America on June 3, 1967. The leaf effect motion of the ship is common with most sightings. Craft of this size and shape have been reported all over the world. This aerial photo was taken by Inaki Ozis while flying at 8,000 feet in February 1968. Probably the same cigar-shaped mothership was photographed in Texas 10 days later. Over the following few days, an object fitting a similar description was reported by various witnesses.
My personal views on UFOs are that these are alien-piloted vehicles. When I say alien, I mean alien to anything we know. possibly they come from other worlds, but I think it's highly likely also that they come from other dimensions, other time spheres, and that there isn't one type of alien coming here. There are probably many of them, all from different areas. When people report these things, we get such a variety of things reported, so many shapes, so many forms, and this appears to cause the confusion because there is such a variety of these things. But really speaking, if these things are visiting us from a whole host of different areas, one would expect them to be different forms, different machines. And I think this personally is the answer to it.
Meanwhile, we scan the skies with optical and radio telescopes of great power, which penetrate the universe for 15 billion light years, watching, listening for signs of intelligent life. Large numbers of people on Earth wait and watch in the hope that one day they may be contacted or visited by visitors from space.
In Russia, a large crowd of people who had gathered to watch a famous singer being filmed saw more than they had bargained for when a UFO suddenly appeared above their heads. The camera crew quickly focused their camera on the object and recorded an aerial display that lasted several minutes. The crowd found this more intriguing than the singer. Even she eventually stopped singing to watch the UFO. Numerous UFOs are seen over Russia regularly. These balls of light are identical to those reported in Belgium and the rest of Europe in 1990, which attracted extensive attention on top military and civilian levels. In April 1990, this cigar-shaped UFO was filmed over Russia by an amateur. These flying objects are now acknowledged by the Russian military as being alien flying machines. For the past 45 years, people from every country have reported seeing UFOs. The descriptions of these objects have been all too similar, despite the fact that the witnesses live thousands of miles apart. Witnesses include astronauts, pilots, scientists, and police. Even presidents of the United States. Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan have spoken openly about their seeing UFOs. Since 1945, an estimated 5 million UFO sightings have been reported from across the world. Most sightings are of singular objects, although many are of 2 or 3. In some cases, large formations have been spotted. The greatest number of UFOs usually appear after 9 p.m. Although a large percentage of these sightings can be explained as natural phenomena, many cannot. Thousands of people are asking questions: what are these UFOs? Where do they come from? Why can't I see one? Why are they here? And more people want to communicate with the extraterrestrials, to learn more about them, get to know them, to understand.
And we must continue to investigate this nucleus. It will be worthwhile to take up communication with extraterrestrial intelligences. May one day be not only a rewarding element in our lives, but it may guarantee our survival.
Other civilizations are trying to convince us that technology has a more meaningful purpose when used for the good of all. We have reached a point when we need to ask ourselves whether we want to live in a world where the use of destructive technology is dictating the development of our Earth. Man decides for himself. The alien visitors have achieved a high understanding of the forces of nature and harmonize with the many variations of the 4 elements, their creative energy, and their higher dimensions. We are now beginning to realize that this vast knowledge of the cosmos must be the basis of our new science.
We are your brothers of space and time, who come extending the hand of friendship to greet our cosmic neighbors. We have watched from afar as you deal with the growing pains of your young race. We see you are moving to a higher level of understanding in accordance with cosmic law. You are on the threshold of joining us on the universal journey, and we wait patiently for this momentous step in your evolutionary progress.
Elizabeth Clara is one of the most important alien contact cases of all time. She was born in South Africa in 1910 and is a woman of great wisdom. Between the years 1954 and 1963, she had many meetings with another race. One man, whom she called Akon, told her that he was from the solar system of Proxima Centauri. She developed a deep friendship with Akon. He took her on a 4-month visit to his home planet of Meton, 4.3 light-years from Earth. Meton is a world with 2 suns. She was told that space was a big laboratory and was given great knowledge about the universe. She understood the structure of the cosmos and the laws of light frequencies immediately, and as requested, she passed her knowledge to science, where it was of great benefit. She later went on lecture tours and wrote a book where she shares her insight into the structure of the universe and passed on highly valuable scientific information to the world. She said, "The road to the stars unfolds within a spaceship of great beauty and simplicity, generating her light from the cosmic plasma of eternity, never faltering, always alive and pulsating, shaped like a galaxy with a halo surrounding her and the shock wave glowing. All of creation is light, the key to the universe. The whole of existence throughout the planetary systems, the stars, the depths of interstellar space are all made up of visible and invisible waves of light. To the seen and unseen, to all energy, substance, liquids, gases, and all life, the release of the microatoms of light from oxygen is the source of all life. The electromagnetic waveform, or light. It forms the building blocks of the cosmos in which we have our being, as microatoms of light in greater unities are equal to atoms. Mind forces, spiritual strength, soul attainment, and thoughts are all made up of different speeds in the wavelength of light, or microatoms. Electricity is microatoms of light, while sound and color occur when the microatoms have different speeds. And when microatoms are stopped, they create heat. Light is an intelligent energy which can be thought into existence and substance. The pattern of microatoms of light changes with changing thoughts, when one achieves the formula for the harmonic vibration of light. The key to all life and the universe lies in harmonic interaction of light. The mathematical formula for all transportation lies in the vibratory frequencies of light harmonic, with anti-gravity waves and time waves, which are simply the frequency rate between each pulse of the spiral of light. By controlling this frequency rate, the flow of time can be varied, and one simply moves within one's environment, within the protection of the spaceship, instantaneously from one planet to another, or one solar system to another, where time, as a geometric, is controlled or eliminated. On her many journeys into space, Elizabeth Clara learned that Akon's race lives in harmony of body and mind, which is the foundation of healthy existence and responsible for the elimination of disease. They know that most diseases are caused by emotional or psychological stress. Akon told her that all cosmic neighbors looked at our world with watchful eyes. They see that the natural world is dying through the imbalance which we are creating in nature, reducing the resources we live on, and they are out there waiting to help. When asked why they didn't come more often, they said, to come here, we have to make many kinds of adjustments to the body because we are uncontaminated.
This spacecraft was seen coming out of the sea near the Canary Islands. UFOs have been repeatedly seen rising out of the water throughout the world. It is known that they are using their advanced systems to help the world to decontaminate areas of high pollution. For instance, green fireballs are appearing in areas of high radioactivity for the purpose of neutralization. Many contactees are told that help for the Earth by our alien friends is allowed, but only to a certain extent, because they cannot interfere, since we all have a free will. This is a cosmic law.
Out of that understanding, echoes and newly realized desires arise to provide oneself with a new quality of life. The awareness of oneself and the place one occupies in the universal law of exchange is the framework of cosmic expectation, the unselfish expression of love and creation. The cosmos is filled with all the energy we need. It's like walking along the beach picking up diamonds. Our present state of consciousness doesn't allow us to exclude ourselves from higher dimensions any longer. As soon as we allow ourselves to think of the world as alive, we recognize that a part of us knew this all along. It is like emerging from winter into a new spring. We can begin to reconnect our mental life with our own direct, intuitive experiences of nature. And we can begin to develop a richer understanding of human nature, shaped by tradition and collective memory, linked to the earth and the heavens, related to all forms of life, and consciously open to the creative power expressed in all evolution. We are reborn into a living world.
Go forward in love with the knowledge that the truth of your future is already written in the halls of eternity, and your destiny is assured. Follow the teachers of wisdom and truth as you go forward with the understanding that you are the seed of the Creator. The Creator is you.